Welcome, 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 welcome. Hey, Cherry. How you doing, bro? I was literally just talking about you an hour ago. You popped in my head. I was not expecting. I really wasn't expecting nobody to catch me because it's so late. Yes, peace to you. We gotta catch up. We gotta catch up. Gotta catch up. I know life been good. T. Thomas, long time no see. Yeah, I think I put out the etheric astral phone call. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, this is not something that I usually do. It's not something that I've been doing for a while, but I felt compelled to do this because there's so much happening in the world right now. And there's so much happening with us on a personal level, too. A lot of people are giving their take on what's happening with us personally and collectively, but I felt compelled tonight to share from that space because I've kind of been in a cocoon and I'm withholding a lot of stuff, that visions that I've been getting, and my visions have always been accurate. And so dreams that I've been having, and I just kind of been pulling away from some of that because it's so much hype right now. Everybody's psychic, everybody, we're in the age of Aquarius, so everybody just kind of hopping out with all of these different gifts and sharing their perspective. So it's 11:11. I said that I was going to start at 11:11. I'm not sure what time it is where you are, but it's 11:11 here, so I'm going to go ahead and start now so that I can capture this energy. And so tonight, what I wanted to talk about was the ego death, right? I want to talk about the ego death because this is a period right now where if you're meant to break cycles, you're going through your own version of an ego death. And it could be small things that's popping up in your day, and it depends on how self-aware you are in the moment to know if this is happening to you. So I'm going to talk about some of that, why that's happening, and what we can be doing. But first of all, I want to say this. On January 1st, 20, January the 5th, okay? It started January the 1st for me. On January the 25th, I had a dream. And in the dream, the first thing that I saw, I think I was leaving the grocery store. And as I'm coming to my truck, first thing that I saw was these like smoky orbs. You would have thought it was clouds had you not really paying attention, but there were these smoky orbs and they were just darting in the sky with the clouds. They were moving too fast to have been clouds. So it caught my attention. I've always been a sky watcher. I pay attention to things that most people probably don't pay attention to. More people are now, but usually people don't pay attention to these things. And so I'm like, hold up, that's strange. Like, why are the clouds doing that? And so I was like, I'm just gonna check this out for a minute. So I didn't get in my vehicle. I just kind of stood out there and was watching, and I could see the auric field around these smoky orbs. I don't know no way to describe it. It's an orb, but it's really smoky, wispy, like a cloud. And they were not really moving in a uniform way. They were kind of just bouncing around all over the sky. And then immediately after that, I saw what looked like a helicopter. And I thought it was weird because I was just thinking to myself, like, you don't usually see Black Hawk helicopters just in the sky. You in the neighborhood, I'm shopping at the grocery store. So I was like, that's strange. And then I see a jet, a fighter jet, and then I saw a plane. And I was like, hold up. Is it a show going on today? Like, what's up? This is a lot going on. And I was like, this is getting interesting. So as I'm watching this, it almost seems as if they were chasing one another. And the next thing that I know, the left side of the sky started to get dark, like nighttime was coming. but the right side of the sky was still light. I mean, it was pure duality. So on the right side of the sky, I see the sun, all this activity happening within the airfield, and then the left side, I see stars in the night sky. And it was a very clear distinction between the two. So at this point now, there's a painting. I don't know if Van Gogh painted this painting, but there's a painting that depicts what it's like to step outside of the physical form and see into the unseen realm. And there's this point where you're transitioning from the physical world to the non-physical world, and there's this veil in between the two. And in this painting, I can't think of the name of this painting, but in this painting, as he's crawling out of the physical world, you could see the night sky and the stars just right adjacent to where he was, but it wasn't visible to him until he started reaching through the veil. So that's what it reminded me of. And even in the dream, I said, this reminds me of a painting that I saw before. And so I'm watching, and the what first appeared to be a helicopter turned into a ship, some type of unidentified ship. And it was almost like it had cloaked itself to look like a helicopter. And some of what seemed to be planes turned into ships. So some of them were still planes, some of them were still helicopters, but there were ships who had cloaked themselves to appear to be these other forms of air travel. And so at that point, I'm noticing that there seems to be this tension between the two. And so it's like our military, it was a combination of military, it was a combination of just a regular flight, a plane with people, and then there were these orbs. I no longer saw any of the orbs. I'm not sure where they went, but I didn't see the smoky orbs anymore, but I did see these ships that had finally uncloaked themselves. And the fighter jet seemed to have been trying to engage and lock in on the ship. And I remember saying to myself, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. You with a technology far beyond what we have. And so I'm shaking my head like this, and at this point I'm pulling out my phone and I'm recording. I'm just like, that's not gonna work. And there was this sound. It kind of reminds me of a sonic boom. And this sound, you can see the vibrations moving through the air. And this sound caused all of the ships that were present to drop. I mean, they just took a nosedive. So there was a building in front of me, and that building, one of the planes crashed into that building. And I remember taking a step back because I knew there was going to be an explosion afterwards. So I'm wanting to protect myself from this explosion. And I took a step back. And right as I took a step back, the bumper on the back of my vehicle like fell off from the impact. It felt like a mini earthquake. And there was this Indian lady and her child next to me, which I'm now believing to be a Hindu goddess, possibly Durga. Durga is a Hindu goddess who is known for protective energies. And so even though we anthropomorphize deities, forces of nature, energy, Mother Nature, you look at a lot of deities across many indigenous cultures, there are these anthropomorphic, personalized way of conceptualizing these energies that exist in the unseen realms. So Durga, being a protective goddess, was like right beside me with the sun, and I had my daughter with me as well. And I do remember feeling safer with her being there. And so in all of this happening, I now hear a fire truck, a whole bunch of fire trucks. This was right around the time the fires were like taking over a lot of LA and a lot of different other neighborhoods. And then I hear the ambulance coming after that. And it seemed as if there were drones documenting this almost as if they knew it was going to happen. So it was like media outlets were already there with drones to document this occurring before anything had happened. And so I could see the drones now showing up, and I could hear news reports. It was like people's radio and people's phone next to me who was recording. They're like, look at this, the news is reporting, da 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 da. So I'm hearing all of this, and in a split second, a black woman walks behind, in between me and the building where the crash happened, and she said, let me help you with your bumper. And so we both picked up either end of the bumper and put in the back seat in the back of my truck. And when you learn to interpret dreams, you have to interpret them in symbolism, but you have to look at the context of the whole picture. And so the context of the whole picture was, though all of this chaos was unfolding, there was this East Indian woman to the left of me and this black woman at the rear in between me and the building, who assisted me with something that happened that was kind of a co-occurring event at that time. So what that symbolizes is the role of the sacred feminine energy in this time. And I'm probably going to step on some toes, but this is why I'm untamed, because you can't break free of social constructs, beliefs. There are beliefs that we have that we don't even know that hold us back from stepping into different versions of ourselves that are probabilities that are already accessible to us. And so sometimes we're so unwilling to be challenged in what we think we know. We're incapable of growth. And this is why a lot of times we stay stuck at a certain level in our journey of higher consciousness. And so I see all of this chaos, but there are these women that are already in place who are helping to mitigate the chaos that's occurring. I did not post this. I immediately woke up, wrote it down, and I actually shared a screenshot of that note where you can see the timestamp. It was 7:35 a.m. when I finally woke up and wrote it down. But the reason I did not post it, because I kept saying to myself, well, I doubt if more planes are going to just start crashing. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I don't think, I know I am one of the main oracles who is capable of giving people updates on events that are going to be occurring to keep us prepared, but I've been pulling back from feeling the need to try to communicate and prepare everybody for everything, because it burnt me out the last few years of doing that. So I went back into meditation and proceeded to do the rest of my grand rising routine. The next day, somebody who sent me a message said, because I mentioned the dream to someone in my personal life, one of my sacred sisters, and she said, didn't you just tell me about a dream you had about a plane crashing and a helicopter and yada, yada, yada? I was like, yeah. And she was like, I got to send you this story. She sent me the story, and when I couldn't believe my eyes. And then the very next day, within 24 to 40 hours after that, another plane crash happened. And this one, the way that it crashed into the building was the exact same building I was standing in front of. And at this point, I knew that I was being nudged to share this. So this is why I'm doing this now. But I did share the screenshot and a really short video about what this means, the omen and the spiritual communication behind these events. Because sometimes we can get stuck on the physical, the material realm, and we're not getting the message that we're meant to receive from the spiritual realm. So, with these events that are occurring, with the fact that there's a lot of resistance, and this, I'm going to be careful about what I'm saying, because when you are really accurate and you're fluent in your gifts, the 3D matrix and algorithms will push back, and you will be censored and shadow banned, and you will not be allowed to reach people. So I do have to be cognizant of how I'm communicating this. Can't be as untamed as I would like to be here, but that's why I have Patreon. But and it's a lot of information that I just posted on there. But the significance of this was, in that dream, right after all of that happened, there was this channeler who was connecting to the consciousness of Mary Magdalene. And Mary Magdalene, if you step outside of the religious context, number one, she was a prostitute. Okay? So that means that she was someone who existed outside of what the social construct deemed to be acceptable for a woman, an acceptable behavior or an acceptable way of making money. Okay? So this woman was channeling Mary Magdalene, and somehow I'm standing in the parking lot watching this happening, but I'm also witnessing her speaking about the event as it is taking place. And she did not look the way I expected her to look. She had a very feminine way of communicating, but she also had these masculine, very protective attributes about her as well. And I'm not going to say she looked like a transgender, but it was more so like, you know, those, some people, how they have like this mix of masculine and feminine, and you can kind of see it in their appearance, and that's what it was like. But her mouth, her entire mouth disappeared. I think it was a movie where it, whatever it was, the entity, it didn't have a mouth, but that's what happened. That's the way it looked. And it kind of shocked me to see her looking like that, but I could still hear what she was saying to me even without a mouth. And she wasn't just talking to me, she was speaking to anybody who was receptive enough to pick up the information. And she said, "This is bad. This is bad. Yes, this is bad. This is going to get worse before it gets better. This is bad. This is bad. But it has to get worse before it gets better." She just kept saying that. And her eyes were glazed over as if she was seeing what I was seeing, but she physically wasn't there. So I don't know if she was seeing it through my eyes, but we were connected. So 24 hours after the first two events that confirmed this particular lucid dream, my bumper got knocked off the back of my vehicle. Cannot make this up. And I didn't share the pictures of that for my own personal reasons. But when that happened, I knew that that was a timestamp. You see, when you get visions and you have dreams, whether you astral travel, lucid dream, remote view, or even use plant medicine to get visions, there are certain things that act as timestamps for you, so that you will know when this particular event happens, this other event is also happening. So that was the third thing that took place, and it was just too specific for me to ignore it. At this point now, I started planning how I was going to do this, because I have not been doing that many lives, because people like me right now, we're having to really protect our energy. And if you truly operate in purity of heart, not for clout, not for any of those other things, but you are truly desiring to be in service to others, there is a certain level of access that you must not allow so that you can maintain and sustain that connection to spirit. And so that's what I've been doing. So after that third confirmation, the fourth confirmation came through so specific, and I'm still a little shook about my bumper getting knocked off. Like that was just a bit much. But right after that happened, I said, okay, 3 times. I guess this is something that I'm supposed to communicate. So the next thing that happened was the reports were coming out saying something along the lines of there was a ice skating team that was on one of the flights, and they were retrieving bodies from the Potomac River. It's just so specific. The times, 666, I've been seeing it constantly, whether it's 6:06 a.m., 66 bodies found. If you pay attention to addresses, nothing that happens in the Matrix is coincidental. Neo seeing the codes, the zeros and ones, was actually the numerological setup that controls the program of the simulated reality. And so I kept saying these numbers, 666. I kept saying 42, and I kept saying 10 over and over and again. And I have a full breakdown, an hour-long breakdown about those numbers and what that means on my Patreon. But the ice skating team, that was so specific, and I couldn't ignore that. And I remembered another plane crashing that had an ice skating team on it back in the 60s. And I said, this is a time loop. We're repeating certain events from 1961. This is the Ouroboros, which is representation of the snake eating its tail. This is Saturn controls the simulated reality. Saturn, the black cube, is what controls the way we perceive time. So there's a repetition, there's an overlay of time, and similar events are going to be occurring that have already happened. And so this is not just one thing. When I went into the decoding, it was so many things that happened in 1961. The fires in California also was happening in 1961. It was just one thing after the other. And I was like, okay, this is confirmation. This is the snake eating its tail. We're stuck in a time loop. And you remember in the movie Matrix, Neo saw the cat, and he saw the cat again. There were specific events that started to catch his attention, and it was almost like deja vu. So when you start to be able to see through the 3D matrix, you start to notice these co-occurring events, and you start to connect the dots. And this is the reason why people who are able to do this, the 3D matrix will make sure there's an Agent Smith that's going to make you feel crazy. That's going to say that you're a conspiracy theorist and that you sound crazy, but you're really simply observing. And what you're saying is actually factual. It's just that it's outside of the hive mind social construct of what we have been programmed to believe is normal or possible. And because we are entering into the age of Aquarius, now Pluto, the planet of rebirth, death, transformation, underworld energy, shadow energy, the darkness coming to the light, that being in the energy of Aquarius. Aquarius is air energy. So to see these things happening within the realm of the ethers, also called the Akash, it is the fifth element of the air. And there was a movie called The Fifth Element, and there were certain events happening in that movie that I'm now starting to see play out. So the next thing that I asked was to give me guidance, because I don't want to feed people's spiritual ego with information that's interesting. For people who are into the things that open-minded people are into, I don't want to just do this for entertainment. I don't want to just do this because it's interesting. I want to make sure that everything that I'm doing somehow can help people in their life. Because what point is it if it's not going to help you in your life? And this is why I pulled away from so much stuff that I used to do, because I realized that I was providing entertainment for people who are like-minded. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's other people to do that. For me, I want people to walk away from anything that I do or offer and have some form of transformation, feel empowered, inspired to do something, or simply feel more confident that even though you're weird, you're different, you think different, it's okay, and it has a purpose, and it's something that you deserve to cultivate and build up for yourself. So with that being said, the owner of the airline from 1961 that also connects to 2025 is Sabina. And Sabina really stood out to me, and I couldn't quite remember why. But Sabina, it is a specific place, first of all, okay, close to the equator. So there's more access to certain spiritual information and energy. A woman named Mary Sabina, who started to work with psilocybin, with mushrooms. She started to work with plant medicine, and she became so well known that a lot of really famous, well-known celebrities, people, athletes, politicians, world leaders, humanitarian, philanthropists, the list goes on and on to how many people sought her out to work with her. And this woman's so powerful, but Mary Sabina was able to unlock so many mysteries, both collectively and personally, for people. And so I went back to that story. And there is also history between Rome and the Sabina women. Those women were raped and pillaged and taken and mistreated by Rome. And so there's a lot of painful history connected to that. Why is that significant? Well, for two reasons. The first reason is that Rome represents the patriarchal religious organizations that was set up to maintain esoteric knowledge, to ensure that the masses were not getting the hidden meaning behind things. They were only getting the exoteric meaning. So this is what Rome was all about. This is also connected to making sure that certain indigenous spiritual practices and things that will give you access to true power, to ascend beyond many of the things that cause human suffering, they wanted to be the middleman and decide for people what is acceptable for their soul to participate in. And this is really Age of Pisces stuff, where beliefs are not something that you come to a realization on your own. Beliefs is something that must be controlled by the people who are in a position of domination and want to oppress. This is all about rulership and power. So you have Rome, and the connections to that connect back to what started on Christmas Eve, when the 5 portals were opened by the Pope. And so whenever there is a major ritual that Rome is doing, and one of the things, because it's only something they do, Jubilee, every 25 years. This is the year 2025. So the last time this was done was in the year 2000. And if you remember, there was like this mass hysteria about the world ending in 2000. And it did. The world as we knew it did. And it happened again in 2012, and it's happening again in 2025. It happened in 2019 when the true galactic reset of time began. That was 2019 when the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction could be seen with your bare eyes. All you had to do was walk outside and see it. See, the cosmology is just basically an astrological clock for the experience that we're having on planet Earth. This is a school. We come to this part of the universe to learn. This is where souls come who sign up to go through a process of evolution. You know, there are many other planets that are habitable for life. But when your soul is signed up to evolve, you come to the Earth School University, right, to learn. So, Rome, all right, that connects back. Now, that is so much deeper than I can say here. All right, if you want that, get that on Patreon. It's just $1 donation, whatever donation you want to give, but it's as low as $1. All right, but fast forward, you got Rome, and now you have Sabina, right? And I talked about what happened to the women. These are indigenous women. I talked about the women who were in my dream and what they were doing. So you can see here the dynamic that's at play. Now, towards the end of Mary Sabina's life, she started to feel a little bit regretful of all the people that she gave access to her gifts. And there are specific stories. You can do some digging and go into a rabbit hole about this, but there are things that unfolded that we all know about that Trump just started releasing information about because he opened up the files, whether it's JFK or Martin Luther King. She was someone who was very, very significant. I'll just say that much. All right. So this means that there are two main timelines. There are two versions of Earth right now. And one of them is the version of Earth where it is ruled by pain, by suffering, by duality, polarity. The idea that it's men against men, it's Caucasians against indigenous, it's Democrats against Republicans. The list just goes on and on. And in order for the 3D matrix construct to survive, the old Earth has to hold on to those narratives. And this is the reason a lot of suffering is because we have been separated from access to our soul. Just because you're breathing does not mean you have access to your soul. If you have a difficult time tapping into your intuition, using your third eye, activating your pineal gland, making decisions, especially difficult decisions, when things start to happen in your life and it's calling for you to do something maybe that you've never done before. When you start to struggle with those things, what happens, hey Corey, hey BB, when you start to struggle with those things, hey King, your soul is attempting to place you in situations that will give you an opportunity for you to step into a higher version of yourself. But it don't show up in a way that feels good. It shows up as destabilization. It shows up as chaos. It shows up as discomfort. It shows up as this internal conflict where the mind and the heart isn't aligned. The logical mind is saying one thing, but the intuitive mind is saying another. You may even start to feel discord, you know, with yourself in certain aspects of your life. It could be the way that you're eating and you know that you need to change it. It could be the way that you treat your body. It could be your internal dialogue, the way that you talk to yourself. And you're kind of like in a war inside of yourself. So this is what the soul allows to get our attention so that we're not distracted. Because the 3D matrix right now, it does not want to die. And it needs our attention to thrive. It is a parasitic relationship. And so the demiurge which are these interdimensional beings who wanted to be able to have rulership over Earth. They are typically the ones that religious factions really high up have to report to. And they are in contract with archonic entities, which are entities that simply feed on negative energy. They feed on pain, desperation, suffering. And so we're starting to get more privy to that. We're starting to be more aware of the ways that our own misalignment, our own inner critic, the negative talk, how we doubt ourselves, we're starting to just really notice that it's starting to be obvious to us, and we're making adjustments. And when you start to do that, now you're starving the beast, right? You're starving the beast, and you're pulling yourself away from relationships, dynamics, soul contracts, karmic debt. You're pulling yourself away from that. When we start pulling away from that, 3D matrix starts to lose its power over our collective perception. So you start to be able to see bullshit, and you know bullshit when you see it. And this could be in areas that you did not see bullshit before. The illusions start to break down. Maybe you thought you were better at doing this thing than you really are. Maybe you thought that you were stronger than you really are. You're like, I'm not as strong as I thought I was. Maybe stress is showing you, okay, I'm not as emotionally resilient as I probably would benefit from stepping into because this is stressing me out. Maybe you're starting to feel like I'm more worthy of more money than I have seen in this lifetime, and I want to be in alignment to be able to access that because I deserve that. I fucking deserve that. And you're having these shifts in perception. And so when this happens, people start to quit their jobs, people start to move, people start to say, I'm done with that shit. It's a fucking nightmare, creates debt. And the debt got me tied up with the maritime law. And the maritime law is all about keeping my soul burdened and heavy with all of this 3D matrix shit that's not going to even matter when I exit this physical body. And so when that happens, it's going to cause destabilization because people are making decisions that's pulling them away from a construct that needed our attention, our money, our time, our life force energy in order for it to operate. This is why in the movie Matrix, you saw humans inside of those wombs that were giving energy to the simulation. But when you wake up and you start to unplug, okay, now the Matrix knows this person is getting free, this person is unplugging. So chaos is going to unfold in their life somewhere, and they'll fold. They won't be able to take it. They eventually give up, and we'll have them for life at that point. As all of these things are occurring, this destabilization can also be seen on a world scale, on the international scale, from the economy to the food system. I mean, on every level, this is happening. Disney World is closed down. Who would have ever thought something that was used to be a part of American Dream? It was like a ritual for us to be able to go to Disney World as children or take our children. And it was almost as if that was some type of achievement that proves that you have achieved something in life. Because I remember that's how I felt when we went, to have grown up and sometimes didn't have food to eat. And now I'm at Disney World splurging with my children and enjoying life. Like it felt like I had achieved something. It's closed down now. The hurricanes closed that shit down. Why? Was it something going on within Disney World, behind the scenes, underground? Got closed down. Because the karmic debt from abuse, especially of women and children. It is unavoidable. And the reason that I saw so many women within this dream is because it is through the feminine. We are the medicine women. But sometimes we're so stressed out, we don't have access to the information. It's in our cellular DNA, waiting for us to unlock it. We are the healers. We are the high priestesses. We are the ones who can look at our children and know what our children need to get better. And you don't know how you know. You just know. Right? Women are not perfect. But women have this very special ability to connect to spirit, to navigate the unseen realms. And so right now, we're being called to step into that, but it's not going to be an easy journey because so many things have been put in the middle of feminine and masculine energy. They're at war with each other and they're feeding into that. And this is the reason that I create content with the intention of unity, with the intention of empowerment, not divisiveness. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to step on toes. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to say things that might cause cognitive dissonance to be activated, and you don't know if you want to believe what I'm saying or not. The mind can be decolonized. There is no liberation of the soul. Our souls have been fragmented. We're not whole yet. We're on the journey to wholeness. And in order for this to happen, the great mother who is within each individual, even men, you have this feminine energy within you. And we're at a place now where the decisions that you make, what you do every single day, is what you create a version of earth that you experience. It has nothing to do with they, with people outside of you, what the government is doing, what they doing. Nothing to do with that. Because spiritual sovereignty is going to require us to do things we don't usually do. It's going to require us to say, you know what? Maybe I don't know it all. Maybe it would be more beneficial for me to approach this as if I am a child being rebirthed and I'm open to learn. I'm open to see. It does no good to even read any information about opening your third eye, about chakras, about none of that. None of that spiritual shit does no good if you are not willing to say, there might be areas where I have information not consciously, because your consciousness only creates 20% or less of your life. The unconscious mind is 80% of what creates your life. So if you don't know what's in your subconscious mind and you don't know how to access it, how the fuck are you gonna know how to take pain and turn it into purpose? What are you gonna do when the chaos that's happening in the air is now happening in the air, in there, in the mind? The mental plane right now is where the war is happening, but also in the waters. And this is why you see so much happening with the water, because that is a symbolic representation. That is a mirror to water inside us, the emotional framework, the emotional subtle body inside of us. There is absolutely nothing happening in this physical world that is not connected to the non-physical world within each of us. We are the microcosm of the macrocosm. We are the projectors, the broadcasters, the channelers, whether you call yourself that or not. Because when you're speaking, when you're thinking, when you're making decisions, the way that you respond or react to certain triggers is what creates your reality. That's a tough pill to swallow because it's some stuff that's in our reality that hurts. And you don't want to feel like you're the cause of that, especially when you don't know what's in your subconscious mind that's attracting that into your life. So some of these events are distractions from what we really would benefit from doing, which is going within ourselves, sitting in your own emotions. You know, are you doing things that are not authentic to you out of fear of abandonment or out of just fear, period? You know, are you, because especially Gen X and beyond, okay? When we came to this planet, Pluto was in Libra. And so that means a transformation. Libra represents balance, harmony, relationships. So a lot of us became people pleasers as a survival mechanism because of the imbalances in our relationships, beginning as children. And so many of us have created lives that were created because we're trying to be who we think people expect us to be or want us to be. We don't want people to be disappointed in us. And that's your humanity. Like it's nothing wrong with you for that. The program of the matrix is the issue. The code is the subconscious programming that's within you. So it could be stuff that you don't even remember that is affecting you. And no matter how much you consciously say you're going to do this, plan to do this, you continue to find yourself in certain loops. Remember I talked about the time loops at the beginning of this. So on a personal level, we're experiencing time loops as well. We were under a mass spell casting that was meant to lock us out of our own power, that was meant to bind our magic. And when I say magic, I don't mean all of this fluff about being able to manifest, and you want to be able to manifest your reality just by thinking about something and having the emotion and an affirmation and feeling bad if you cannot do that. All of this stuff that I'm saying, it really does rub me the wrong way, because that's just the surface of that. And a little bit of information can be really dangerous. You know, so right now, the earth is splitting into two versions of earth where some people are experiencing disasters that we can't even wrap our minds around. If you are sitting and listening to me right now and you have a roof over your head, you have some food, you have some clean water, you have clothes, maybe you're even so blessed to have air, to have heat, like those simple things within the physical world that you have. You got breath in your body. You were somehow able to find me out of the millions of other things you could have been doing. This is proof of who you are. This is proof of your power. Your ability to even pay attention to what I'm saying to you right now. Don't sleep on that. That's special. So it's billions of people who are not connecting to this type of frequency, but you are. And you have to give yourself credit for that. You have to celebrate yourself. Because whatever entities have attached themselves to you, they're looking to you to feed them. They do not care about anything else except for survival. And the way that you know this is happening with you is because you get stuck in survival mode. You can't sit still. You feel restless. You feel like you always got to be doing something. You feel like you got to be perfect in everything that you do. You feel like you're not doing enough. And then when you do your best, it still don't feel like it's enough. You start doubting yourself. You start catastrophically thinking about how your life is gonna be. You start to worry. You start to feel anxious about shit. It's difficult for your mind to think about anything else other than things that hurt you to think about. You replay in your mind some type of interaction that you had with somebody else, and it just keeps coming back to your mind. This is a spiritual warfare, and this is the real work. This is the real battlefield. The battlefield is within the mind, you know, and no one can win that battle but you. Because if we really be honest, if there was a loudspeaker on your mind and the whole world could hear your inner talk, it's probably some stuff that you probably would not even want the world to know that reverberates inside of your mind. Let's be real, you know. You can't heal until you can be real. And if a camera followed you all day long and this was broadcast to the entire world, how proud of you would you be when you look at the way that you handle things and approach things? Like, these questions let you know, okay, this is the level that you're operating on right now. And if it's a level that you feel like is lower than what you're capable of, the only thing standing in between you and a new timeline, a new experience, a new version of Earth is the tools. If you dedicate yourself to using the tools, if you don't give up when it get hard, if you keep doing it even though you're not seeing results, there's a buffering time before our inner work starts to change our outer world. But because we unfortunately have microwaves and so many other things that provide a convenience for us, patience is more of a challenge for our generation and forward than we could ever know. For those of us who got children, I'm sure you can attest to this. They're even more impatient than we were. And technology has that effect. And a lot of times we're doing what's going to benefit us, but we don't stick with it long enough to see the benefit, you know. And it's just like if you open a CD deposit account, you know, and you put money into it, if you go back 3 weeks later and you try to withdraw it, like, it's not going to work that way. It needs to be there at least 5 years. So what if you're 5 years away from the most beautiful fucking life that you could ever have, where you're experiencing things that you never thought was possible? That miracles has become like just a way of life for you, and it just happens to you, around you, and through you. Maybe you're somebody else's miracle. You know, what if it just requires you to apply yourself for 5 weeks, 5 days, 5 months, 5 years? You know, don't give up. And right now, another reason I wanted to do this is because the decisions that you make today, from today forward, and it's going to continue to get stronger for certain aspects, reasons, energetic reasons, but it's going to create the template for the rest of the year, and so forth. So if it's something that you want to change, don't put it off. Don't procrastinate. Like, go ahead and dedicate yourself to whatever it is that you know, and just do the best that you can, and don't quit when it gets tough. But know that one of the signs that you're really doing the work is chaos starts to unfold. And why is that? Because where we're being guided to go, the old wounded ego, it can't live in the vibrational field of higher consciousness. It can't handle it. it can't handle honesty 24/7. If we was honest 24/7, a lot of us would be telling people, no, that actually tasted pretty bad. Well, you've been eating it. I've been cooking it for you. Yeah, I ain't want to hurt your feelings, but it was really disgusting, and I threw up after I ate it the last time. I ain't want to hurt your feelings. Like to live, you talk about higher consciousness. You talking about living your authentic self and living in the frequency of love, but that means sometimes hard truths, and so we have to start pulling ourselves away from being people pleasers and being codependent and being authentic. But the ego is fragile, so the ego can't handle that. And a lot of times we operate that way because we're trying to make it easier for people to interact with us. That's the old earth way. And in the moment, it might seem to create stability and peace, but what it actually does is you start to inhibit your growth with someone else's growth. And I see this especially with women. This is why women won't even tell men if they're not having a real orgasm. Most men don't fake orgasms for the sake of hurting a woman's feelings. But why? Why is that? Why do women feel like they have to make sure a man's ego is comfortable? Why? And what type of damage does that do to a man's evolutionary cycle? Is that going to keep him stuck? Is he going to continue to only crave illusions? Women have been programmed to believe that we're only desirable when we're stroking a man's ego. And I'm not saying that men, it can't be on the flip side, but it's rare. And when you look at these things, there's a deeper meaning under it. And so the patriarchy didn't just do damage to women, it did damage to men too, and maybe even worse. Because the patriarchy was ruled by masculine energy, and one of the aspects of masculine energy is the ability to be productive, the ability to work, the ability to hustle, the ability to provide, the ability to get shit done by any means necessary, the ability to ignore discomfort in your body to get shit done. These are things that men who have a lot of masculine energy are known for. So within a man's world, women had to learn how to use masculine energy to survive. Men never had to learn how to use feminine energy. So the patriarchy actually set men up to be emotionally underdeveloped. And this is the reason why I've been quiet for a little while on some of these things, because when you really are interacting with something that could disrupt the simulated reality based on illusions, based on fear, based on the protection of the ego, which is what keeps us fragile, it's what keeps us weak, it's what keeps us in a place of wanting to be millionaires but are too emotionally dysregulated to handle what that means and what comes with that. So you're being pulled in two different directions. You're desiring and wanting something that you're not yet matured enough to handle, otherwise it would destroy you. And if you're called to be a spiritual being on this planet, we're not going to be given anything that's going to create destruction, not just for the sake of us, but for the sake of those that rely on us and that are connected to us. So women learn how to be men. Men never had to learn how to operate in feminine energy. So now we're operating with two completely different our hard drive has information that is not coherent. It doesn't connect. And now we see 80% of autoimmune cases being in women. Women are having heart attacks, strokes, lupus, Graves' disease, MS, Lyme disease, chronic inflammation. I mean, the list goes on. And I'm speaking from personal experience, but I'm also speaking from thousands of women that I have worked with. And the repression of pain, the repression of anger, hiding how we really feel, and the inability for men to hold safe space for us to be raw, for us to be authentic and vulnerable and honest, which is oftentimes uncomfortable, but it's good for us. You know, for men to hold space for us to be authentic that way, it's going to require them to know how to use the feminine aspects within themselves, because it is the feminine that acts as a container for life to be created. And to be specific, it is the dark feminine that acts as the container for life to be created. Every single person that watches this video is here because of dark feminine energy. Every single thing in this world is here because of dark feminine energy. Every form of vegetation on this planet is here because of dark feminine energy. The soil, Mother Earth, holding that space for that seed to germinate. Sunlight would have killed the seed before it was time. But even just a conversation, these words have been loaded with viruses. So when I say dark feminine energy, when I have this type of high level soul conversation, maybe even inside of you could feel something coming up. You know, a lot of men don't trust feminine energy because they don't know it well enough to trust it. They haven't been in a relationship with their own enough to trust it. So when feminine in their life says something like, I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel unsafe, I don't like the way that you're talking to me, whatever it is, when we show up that way, there's a virus that has been downloaded into the hard drive of a lot of men's subconscious mind, not conscious mind. Because consciously, a lot of men feel like, no, I know how to hold space. But on a subconscious level, there may be something that comes up and you're uncomfortable with that and you don't feel like you can trust that. And men have been programmed to believe that they can't believe women. So if a woman says, this is too much for me, I'm emotionally overwhelmed, men don't believe that. A lot of men would say, I don't believe that. You just want to escape accountability. You just want to act like a little girl and a kid and just be over emotional. You are just being controlled by your limbic system. If you have that type of vernacular, you know, you're being controlled by your emotions. So I'm going to discount everything you're saying is not true. This is the pollution of water. Water has been polluted. We don't trust it. This is why if you walk in your kitchen right now, you probably don't trust the water that's coming out of your faucet. But I bet you 15, 20 years ago you did. That's a reflection of something. And so as we're learning how the waters have been poisoned, that affects us on the subconscious level too. And so we're not going to trust emotional energy, which is the energy of water. And it's like, can I trust this? Is this person trying to manipulate me? And a lot of men have such a strong fear of being manipulated by the feminine. This is religion. This is rap. R&B now. It ain't like it used to be. Everything has just been programming us to distrust the feminine. And to feel like emotions is something that just messes up your day. You know? And it's because we haven't become masters of ourselves. Because a true self-master knows that no matter what happens, I have the power to overcome it. And so you don't have a reason to avoid conflict or get into arguments or avoid dealing with certain things and not making decisions and whatever it is that you know need to do in life. You feel like I can conquer it, I can handle it. You know, we have to step into this energy in order for us to create a new earth, which just basically means create a collective vibrational frequency on this planet that's rooted in love and not fear. Wetigo. That was the name given to this virus of the mind that creates fear. And I think the movie Apocalypse, if you haven't watched it, watch that movie, and it will really give you a lot of context to the conversation that I am sharing with you all now. But it distorts everything, and you learn to not trust your own perception over time, and this is why a lot of us have trust issues. We don't even trust ourselves. We doubt our own ability to navigate life in a way that's conducive for growth because we're looking at mistakes that we made. But this is the 3D matrix job. It's to put obstacles in our way. It's to challenge us. It's to keep our limitations right in front of us at all times so we never see that the limitation is actually some form of protection. You know, and I've dealt with this myself because, you know, to be honest with y'all, sometimes I feel like the sincerity, the integrity that I operate from, I really do give a fuck. I don't do this for no other reason. I really do care. You know, sometimes I just sit and cry because I'm saying to myself, I know that I'm capable of doing so much more than I've done, and it just seems like something is not allowing me to do more. And you know, it took me. I kept asking y'all, comment, let me know. Like, y'all don't be commenting this shit. And I'd be like, what's this going on? I'm telling them to comment and let me know. Like, what topics you want me to cover? Do you got some questions? Something you want to share? It's just like the engagement was so low. And I was just like, what's up? Am I, maybe I need to take a step back. Maybe it's something with me that needs to be, you know, dealt with. And so I've really been sitting on that. And this is not something that I do just for fun. I mean, I enjoy this. I enjoy being able to take information in the Akashic records and simplify it and give it to y'all. And it's like solutions for shit that people would charge you thousands of dollars to get access to. And I give it out so freely. But I was discouraged. I was really discouraged by that. And because I spent so many years investing so much time, effort, and energy, making so many sacrifices to be able to do this, I was hurt. And I felt like my soul's purpose was somehow being overshadowed by something else. You know, and leading up to this, when I got ready to release the alchemical course, Turn Pain into Purpose, that was created because of the problems y'all was having. The things that we talked about in readings, the things like over all of these years, there's something called market research in business. And so you want to create something that's going to offer solutions for people. People don't buy courses and books and listen to podcasts, you know, just to be doing it. It's something that you're hoping to resolve. It's something you're hoping to learn. It's something you're hoping to heal. And so I took all of that and I took my time and I condensed it and I fixed it where you wouldn't have to spend no more than 10 to 30 minutes. And I made it easy and I made it simple. And that's hard to do because I'm long-winded. So to make stuff short, simple, and straight to the point and easy, that was a challenge for me. And I did that. And right before I got ready to release it, which was going to be in July, because I kind of wanted to be like an Independence Day kind of thing, you know, and July 26th is the real new year, based on the lunar calendar, the 13-month lunar calendar. So I wanted to release it then, and like a few days before I was going to release it, I woke up and I couldn't walk. And I have a really high pain tolerance. So to not be able to walk, I couldn't sit, I couldn't fold, my knees wouldn't fold, and my legs were swollen so big. It was the strangest thing that happened. It happened like within hours. And so after being rushed to the hospital, had been in the hospital in 8 years. I used to live in the hospital. If anybody on here to know me, you know, y'all can attest to this. I lived in the hospital. I was in the hospital 10 months out of a year. I was on my deathbed more times than I can count. So to achieve 8 years without hospitalizations, with everything that I've learned, and a lot of it that I've shared, and now I finally have a course where I can access this. I'm so stoked about this. I was hyped up. When they told me that the bones in my legs was dying, something called necrosis, bone death, because there was no blood flow and no oxygen. That shit broke my heart, because I had worked so hard to get here. And I didn't understand. I couldn't understand what is happening. From no perspective was I able to see what was happening. I had invested thousands of dollars to pay a programmer to help me y'all creating courses and programming and digital products and shit like that. Unless you went to school for computer programming, that shit is hard. And I was willing to sit and do that. My partner was willing to sit with me and help me do that, and we had did that. And then that didn't fall through. You know, it was taking up so much space within the platform, so we had to shift to another platform. It was so much that went on in the background. I was like, I know the transformative power of this information, but why is all of this happening? But y'all, if it wasn't for my physical limitations, I don't even know where I would be and what I would be doing. I sometimes need something to slow me down, because I'm so passionate about taking suffering and turning it into enlightenment. I'm so passionate about that. I give a fuck so much about that. If you saw me in my day-to-day life, the way that I live, to make sure that I'm in alignment, so I'm not sitting in front of y'all telling y'all nothing that I'm not doing and holding myself accountable to do, you'll get what I'm saying. And when they told me that, and they were talking about how I might not be able to walk, and I had to use a wheelchair for a long time, then I had to use a walker, and I was so fucking determined. I was like, no, I worked too hard for this. And that pain was so bad. There were moments where I almost felt like death could have been the best thing to happen to me. And I didn't like feeling that way, because I've already defeated death. I've already came face to face with the Grim Reaper twice. Had a whole conversation with the Grim Reaper. Like, nah, I ain't finna leave. Nah, I ain't done. I just got started. It's millions of people that's going to be inspired and have access to whatever it spiritually is that they needed that's going to come through me. I'm a vessel. No. And so I was going through that in the background, and still launched that course, because I was just, my mindset was like, I don't have to be perfect to teach people. I'm a student of life, right? I don't have to be perfect. It's okay that I have to use a walker. It's okay, because people judge you so harshly. It's like, oh, I can't trust anything that this person is saying because they can't even walk. So why would I trust them? And I had all this in my mind, this imposter syndrome shit. And I realized that the 3D matrix was really trying to shut me down. And I know, without a shadow of a doubt, that being an oracle and being of the lineage of the Mama Wata, this is what I came here to do. And so I refuse to give up. And we moved platforms, we launched that course, and there's so much more that happened behind the scenes. But all of that happened, and I end up back in the hospital hospital again right before the lunch date. So I had to push it back, and I kept having to push it back. And that right there was just letting me know. I was like, the Matrix really don't want me to do this. Out of all the other digital products that I've created in the past, like, this is the most pushback, that I ever got. And I was like, that's just letting me know that this is something that's supposed to happen. This is something that's going to connect with people with their own soul contract to activate their own Akashic record to be rewritten, because that's what we're doing. We're rewriting our life. We're rewriting our Akashic record. We're rewriting the trajectory of our bloodline. We're rewriting that shit. We're not allowing ourselves to be stuck in cycles anymore. Like, if you're really about that life, you fall off, but you get back up. And that's what matters. We get back up. You knock me down. Oh, it's okay. I'm getting back up. And I struggled because I kept saying to myself, it's a million other teachers. What can I teach anybody that's different, that's healthy? But my resilience alone, there's no way that I would even get to this point. If what I have learned don't help nobody, I wouldn't be here. I definitely wouldn't have no sanity. And I ain't saying that I'm not crazy, because I am crazy. Let me tell you, when you go through an ego death, you question your own sanity many times over. That's all a part of the journey. And when you start to see through the veil and you walk in between worlds, yeah, you feel a little crazy, you feel a little off your rocker sometimes. You have to lose your mind. You have to get out of your mind so that you can allow yourself to embody enlightenment. It's all about being able to listen to the heart, because the language of the soul speaks through the heart. And a lot of us are so disconnected from the heart, we don't even know what we feel. And so I pushed back. I refused to give up. I launched a course, and so much happened in that short period of time. This was in late November, early December. And I said, 2025 is the year of the wood snake. This is about to be one of the most epic times of our lives. And the souls who incarnated to be here in this time is something really special and powerful that they have access to. And, so if you are going through some things and you haven't been quite able to figure out what is the purpose in my life? You know what I'm saying? You got to look at the shadows. What do you struggle with? Your personal demons. They're there to destroy you. They're there to test you and to challenge you. They're the weights to the muscle of your soul's purpose. So see, the divisiveness in so many of the teachings, it's not teaching us the power in the things that we look away from, the things that we are ashamed of, the things that we don't want to know or believe about ourselves and each other. It's looking at that, and let me give you an example before I get off of here, because I'm about to wrap this up. But let's just say right now your finances are fluctuating, and maybe you're making more money than you ever have, but it seems like you're not holding on to it that long. There's more stuff coming into your life that's requiring money from you. If that's happening to you, there's a purpose in that. And oftentimes the purpose of that happening is so you are not identifying your worth and your value by the amount of money that you can make. Because so many of us, that's what the bar was placed in front of us, to let you know whether or not you were successful. And this is why when you see people who are wealthy, we somehow equate that in our minds that they're better than us, smarter than us, stronger than us, more talented than us, and they're successful. That's going away. If your value system is based on something outside of you, you're not going to really be empowered in yourself. You're going to always need something outside of you to validate your worth. And so in order to break up with that toxic contract, you're going to experience fluctuations. You're going to experience some type of chaos in that realm. And you can apply this to any realm of your life. And that's what it's meant for. For me, physical health issues. And I wasn't going to share this because I'm in questioning whether or not it's beneficial for me to share some of my personal battles. But I know that it is helpful, because sometimes when you see people on this side of your device, you wonder, like, is this person ever do anything? And I know I think that. And social media can really make you feel shitty about your life. People only show you the highlights of their life. That's a whole conversation for another time, because there is an archonic agenda behind that too. But I'll say this, that now that I have finally got through some of the most difficult times, I knew that shaking up the matrix was going to have some type of blowback. I knew it was. And I thought that I was fully prepared for it. But now, I have recently found out that there's black mold within the walls of my home. And it's something that was hidden. It's something that there was really no way for us to have known beforehand. And it was an issue that recently revealed itself. But I have been really, really sick, like sicker than ever before. I mean, debilitating. If y'all ever dealt with black mold, you'll know what I'm talking about. And because I was born with a genetic disease, a terminal illness, it makes it even worse for me, for my immune system, to be having to fight against this. And so when that developed, that was like a whole new battlefield that I was placed on. And that made me question whether or not I was even worthy to be teaching anybody about self-mastery. Because it was like, I should have known better. I should have avoided this. I should have stopped this from happening. But it was hidden. It was no way that I could. And so I haven't been able to do as much, because I'm prioritizing my health. But I don't want to put my purpose on the sideline, on the back burner, and not do that, So it's choosing to be in service to others, but to take care of myself. Because if I'm not here, I can't complete my soul's mission, And it wasn't just that one challenge, because that reflects something bigger. And this is another conversation that I've had in the War on Consciousness lecture, part 1 and part 2. And I talked about this a little bit in the DMX decoding and the Lambda decoding, which you can find on Patreon. This goes deep. And this is not something that only I'm dealing with. This is something that I foresee a lot of other people are going to be dealing with. And this is one of the ways that targeted individuals are being targeted. And so there is a connection through electromagnetic frequencies, low megahertz, and mold. I'll just say that. And fungus. And certain heavy metals and things. There is a connection. And there is a specific agenda behind it and why it's happening. But like I said, you can access that on my Patreon to get into that, because I'm telling you, this is going to be the next kind of epidemic kind of thing, where it's going to be happening to so many people. And a lot of people are going to start finding out that a lot of the brain fog and health issues and just being forgetful, even if you're not sick, just certain stuff happening, a lot of people are going to be finding out, damn, it was mold in my environment. I didn't even know, So anyway, I have remote viewed into that and looked into the timelines and why that's happening. And like I said, War on Consciousness 1 and 2, I did those metaphysical lectures before this even happened to me. So it was almost as if the information that I was going to need years later was already being transmitted to me to prepare me. But with that being said, this is something that homeowner insurance doesn't cover, which means it's an out-of-pocket pocket expense. And if you have ever dealt with mold, because it is a biotoxin, it's a biohazard, and it's very dangerous, there's a very specific way it has to be handled. And a lot of people die every year from it. Now, how I have been able to be in the environment for years and survive is because of everything that we have talked about here. When you have a purpose, when your soul is here to do something that's going to be in service to other people, when you're here to break cycles, there will be challenges, and there will be things that will come up that will try to stop you, and there will be shit that happen to make you doubt yourself, and sometimes it make you question whether or not I just need to give up. That will happen, but you will also be protected. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to go through stuff. It doesn't mean that it's not going to get hard. But I've been protected. And even though I am sicker than I have ever been, I'm okay. Mentally, I'm okay. Spiritually, I'm okay. I'm still able to be in service to other people, even though I'm in the middle of a battlefield that I don't even know how I'm going to fix. I don't even know how I'm going to deal with it. You know, most people don't have $15,000, $20,000 just sitting around. And I'm not discouraged by it. I'm not discouraged by it. I was at one point, but I'm not anymore. Because I acknowledge that people who are called to do great things have great challenges. And it doesn't show up you are. It doesn't show up to destroy you. It shows up so that you can turn around and look back at your past and all the other shit that you went through that you didn't know how you were going to get through it, and somehow you got through it and you're still standing. Anything is happening in your life, it don't matter what it is. I want you to look back. How many things that you go through, not just as an adult, but as a child. You survived shit that you did not think you were going to survive, and you are still standing. Let that be a reminder to you that you are protected, that you are loved, that you have purpose, that you have meaning. You did not come to give up. You might go into a dark night of the soul. You might withdraw from people. You might have periods where you really don't even want to be around people. All of that might happen. But it does not discount who you are. Your value is not based on how shiny and perfect your life is. And this teaching that I keep hearing, that you are in control of your reality, you are a master of your reality, it does not mean that you will be able to be in control of every single thing that happens in your reality. A true co-creator is someone who learns to respond instead of react. It's someone who learns to see the purpose in the pain. It's someone who learns to see the opportunity that's being offered in the trigger. It's someone who discovers that within this toxic dynamic in my relationship, there's an opportunity for me to break cycles. And I may not be able to change other people, but I can change how I respond. And every time I do that, I'm changing the trajectory of the timeline that I'm experiencing, and every soul that is connected to me, because we come here with soul contracts. Nothing is coincidental. So every day, I'm using everything that is in the course. It's so simple. I'm making sure that I'm sleeping with my obsidian every night. My obsidian. This is why I look like this. Because we be going to work. This is created by volcanoes. We are so blessed to be able to purchase something that was created inside of a volcano. We don't have to go there. We don't have to risk our lives to get it. We don't have to dig it out. But to much is given, much is required. And because we are blessed to have the convenience where we can just pick up our phone, go on our laptop, and order things that carry information and data and connect us to the power of the spiritual realm, the mineral kingdom, and everything that it offers. Because we have the power to do that, we also have responsibility that matches that. And I know that as you're going through these awakenings, sometimes these things start to collect dust because you start to feel like an imposter. You start to maybe feel like, what is this going to do for me? It's just a rock. But this connects you to cellular memory, to the path of your ancestors, to the things that they learned. It's encoded in here. Every device we're using right now has quartz crystals in it. And we couldn't even do this without quartz crystals. And so this is the power that we have available to us, and it is in the simple things. Spirituality, personal development, enlightenment, self-mastery. It doesn't have to be complex. And when you look at indigenous cultures, the simplicity of the way that they interacted with nature and nature's elements and the elementals and different energies. It was so simple back then. And I think a lot of us are craving simplicity. We're wanting to slow down. We're not wanting the complexity anymore. We're not wanting the fast pace, even the city life. Like, a lot of people are just not wanting to do that anymore. We want to be able to slow down. We want peace and quiet. We want to be able to connect with the ancestral intelligence that's within us, so that the artificial intelligence is not taking over our reality. This is a simulated reality, which means the way that you respond, the way that you react, it plants a seed into the reality that not just you experience, we experience as a collective. And because we're multi-dimensional beings, there is no time. Time is an illusion. So whatever you're doing, it affects your ancestors, because there is no time. And so you can not only change your future, but you can change the past by what you choose to do in the present moment. So I hope that this, thank you for that, Jerry. Yeah, I hope that this, was helpful to somebody. And I don't know how much more you're going to see of me, but when you do see me post things, tap in and use that. And I will probably be keeping people updated through, if you sign up for the email newsletter, you'll get that. And if you want to get the course today, because it's $25.25. My guides was like, change the price of the course to be a mirror reflection of the year. So the course is now only $50. And 5 2 equals 7. 7 is the number of completion. So it's time for us to complete cycles, to close out these old chapters so that we can open new chapters. I believe in you. I only believe in you because I believe in myself. And we have to have that within ourselves before we can have that and share that with other people. And so I hope that you leave transformed, inspired, motivated. Take advantage of that. I already sent out the email with the link. I'll make sure that those links are in the description as well. It's not hard to find. But just go to untamedsouls.com and get the course. Simple and easy. Spend about 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's not long. And like I said, I kept it really simple. It's a lot of information, but it's not overwhelming. And you'll see what I mean when you get there. And I want you to dedicate yourself to create a routine for yourself and stick to it. You owe it to yourself to see who you can become, right? Without anybody else having to do anything for you. Don't you want to feel that confidence? Because the amount of chaos we're about to enter into, the people who are not going to lose their minds, the people who are going to be emotionally regulated, the people who are going to be grounded enough to access the ground chakra, get information from the cosmos, from the higher consciousness, and be able to broadcast that out into the world. The people who are going to be able to do that are people who are working on themselves. People who are choosing not to work on themselves, we're going to continue to see these disasters, and we're going to continue to see people be impacted by them. And this is the separation of the two earths. It's unavoidable. It has to happen. And there's a certain amount of destruction that the United States has to go through on an astrological level. And it's simply for rebirth. You know, none of this is happening for any other, like, insidious, you know, end. We don't have to think dystopian, right? Because if we all collectively think it, then we will collectively create that thought form, and the egregores will mirror that back to us in our reality. So am I saying that you changing the way that you think, creating routines and sticking to it? I mean, every day, being like, every day I'm going to show up. And until I see change, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. All that you have to do is do your best, create a routine. Do not 30 determine what you do every day. Don't just be an eater and a shitter. You can't. You cannot be an eater and a shitter and break cycles and feel great about yourself and be tapped in. You wouldn't be watching me if you weren't meant to be here to be able to ascend. So the routine is what's going to create the reality. Point blank, period. And so many of us are going to be the next millionaires and billionaires. But first, we have to have the foundational beliefs, principles, mindsets, and routines that allow us to step into that so that we're not dangerous to ourselves and other people. Because one of the most dangerous things is someone with a wounded ego and a huge shadow who doesn't know how to be with themselves and doesn't know how to accept these shadow parts of themselves. And your demons like money because they can get access to power to do things. And we're now seeing the horrible things that people who did not master their demons, who gained money, we're now finding out what they were doing behind closed doors. And it's despicable. It's despicable. It's heartbreaking. It can be a bit much. So if you're empathetic, you know, it's good to help be able to pull back out of it too, so that you can actually bring something into this world that's going to leave it a little bit better than it was when you came here. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Peace, love. Ashe. I missed y'all.